There exists a constant battle for survival. Welcome, my friends, to Atomics on a Friday, a fascinating journey into the realm of cybersecurity, data, and atomic testing. Today, we shall embark on an adventure with two seasoned experts who have roamed the cyber wilderness for years, honing their skills and strategies. Paul Michaud, a master of cyber shenanigans, has an uncanny ability to unravel the most perplexing digital mysteries. Alongside him is Mike Haag, a cyber threat connoisseur who has devoted his life to understanding and mitigating the ever-present dangers lurking in the shadows of cyberspace. Together, they shall guide us through the complex tapestry of this digital ecosystem, revealing hidden treasures and secrets that will undoubtedly leave us with a newfound respect for the world of cybersecurity. So, dear viewers, let us dive deep into the heart of this wondrous realm, where the forces of good and evil collide in an eternal struggle, and let us explore what it truly means to protect our delicate digital existence. Join us on Atomics on a Friday. There exists a constant battle for survival.
Howdy. Here we go. Welcome. Are you still muted?
When you have too many screens and you lose your mouse, it makes it really difficult sometimes to unmute. So it's always that.
It's buttons. Buttons everywhere.
Look, when you're hunting APTs, you can never have too many monitors.
Yeah, I know. You got your one crew over here and your other crew over there.
Yeah, I mean, if that's not how you're doing it, like
geography based, maybe. Like
could be,
you cut it.
Maybe like color schema based. Severity of threat.
Severity.
APTs higher rated and different color than maybe UNCs or fins.
I like the color idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah, too bad we can't just like give them colors instead of anything else. But how are you gonna sell your product if you don't have like little codes for stuff?
My favorite is Flax Typhoon. And like, is it going to be like, Soy Typhoon? Are we going to pull in like?
That's like, what was funny is I was literally searching for in Google because I saw the link yesterday to the blog post, lost it, and so I was like, oh yeah, it's Microsoft's Flax Typhoon. So I'm searching Flax Typhoon, and of course nothing related to it showing up. It's showing me Volt Typhoon. I'm like, okay, how about just Flax? And they're doing a little Google dorking. Insight, Microsoft, couldn't find it. I'm like, so I literally had to go to Microsoft's site and then search Flax. And then I'm thinking the whole time, like, do I have any flaxseed laying around?
I know. Yes. First thing, I was looking for that soft ether hash from the blog, and the only place it came up was their blog. It's not on VT, it's nowhere else, and it's only there. It's the vpnbridge.exe, I think. Did you dig into that or search for the hash?
Not the hash. The only thing I saw they gave were IPs and JA3s.
Well, they were passing the hash.
Unless I missed the hash in the article, which is high probability.
All right. Flax Typhoon hash. Right there. It's at the bottom. Yep, it's at the bottom. Oh, no, wait. What is this? Oh, it was the infrastructure. The SHA-1 TLS fingerprints because, yeah.
Yeah, because everybody's collecting and using those.
That helps. Every product shares that.
I mean,
cool.
We'll dive into this later because we'll hit it into the grouping what we have.
Groupings?
Spoiler alert. There's so many APTs coming, it's not even funny.
I know. Oh, it's good times. Cool. Well, buttons. Yeah, our agenda today is MSBuild. We have shared a little bit. There's quite a bit of cool things to drop and share, and I was thinking about it, Paul. I feel like we've talked about MSBuild on the show before. You
Many
remember?
times.
Okay. I'm not the only one.
No.
It might be a lot of rehashing.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's an important thing because what's dead is alive again, and what's old
Yeah.
is new again.
And
MSBuild is one of those things that I feel like is going to make a comeback soon.
Yeah. And totally. And I actually made slides today. So there's actually a little bit more things to click through. So yeah, killing it. We started a new thing. We were all talking about this, the two of us, and about what you hunting. What are you hunting? We need to create a new segment called "What You Hunting." Anyway,
clearly it's MSBuild today.
Yeah, exactly. Or flax seeds and typhoons.
Should pull that up.
But yeah. In case you're new here, my name is Michael Haag, threat researcher here at Splunk and maintainer of Atomic, Red Team, lull drivers, things like that. Is I missing one?
There's like 4 more projects that you're missing that you've launched in the past 2 weeks.
I like to build things.
At the high level, that's fine.
I like to research things, and thank you for joining us today. But yeah, man, what's going on? What about you?
I'm not as distinguished as Mike is. I'm a threat hunter at Unit 42. I don't have as many cool projects as Mike has going on. From lull drivers, boot kits, shell sweep, and a plethora of other things in GitHub. Oh, all the cool stuff of creating the new input comp for the Splunk forwarder.
Oh yeah, that was actually pretty cool.
So there's actually some fun things about that. Actually had to go enable a whole bunch of stuff. This turns out it wasn't enabled by default. We should talk about that comp at some point later in the future for hunting efforts. That's a very slick comp. But anyway,
that's awesome.
So
yeah, I know. I feel like we have so many cool things. Today. We're limiting ourselves to MSBuild when we have so many other things to talk about.
Well, I think what we're going to talk about was flax seed typhoon.
Flax. Yes. What you hunting? That's the topic right now.
Is
what
you
hunting?
Flax seeds.
Yep. I Google flax seeds.
We should probably.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Whoa. Flax typhoon does not come up.
When you're talking to Alexa?
That was Google, man. But apparently.
Google?
Calm yourself, Google.
The mic's off.
Yes, it is.
For a good reason.
Wow. Always listening. Always listening.
Let's pull in.
Flaxseed typhoon. You're sharing your screen. Okay. All right. Here we go. We're in.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So tell us about this nation state activity, why we should care, because this is what you hunting.
You know that I don't actually read these word for word, and I go straight to the good stuff based on our
you smash and grab.
Yeah, but I did read a little bit. You clearly know more about the Chinese APT side of things than I do about this, so I'll let you start because you read that part.
Okay, so the part that I read was scroll down.
Keep going.
Right there, stop. See where it says low bends? Right there, up.
Yes.
Up.
Oh,
yeah, basically there. You can go right there. That's fine, but it was higher up. That's all I saw, and the first thing I thought was, okay, cool. I didn't think of anything too new out of this, especially when I saw China Chopper. I was like, what year is it? That's the meme I dropped. Was what year is it? When I saw China Chopper. I thought the juicy potato or the potato thingies were cool. The VPN piece was neat, but I think the part where, yeah, and I think overall, like, The one thing I wish the blog went into, and I don't know if they're just trying to hold back like data from publicly disclosing or something, but I think they should have shared more on the scheduled task. The sticky key thing was like so 1999. Like give us something fresh. The LSAS
Isn't
stuff.
that any APT?
Exactly.
I feel like I look at stuff like sticky keys that I've seen for the past 2 decades and still comes around to this day. But everybody wants to hunt APTs. Meanwhile, you could literally go hunt for sticky keys and turn up APTs. Guarantee it.
Yeah.
Throwing a lot of heat right now.
Yeah. So anyway, if you scroll down, the only other so the piece that when they talk about initial access, it was like very generic. And I was just kind of like, okay, but then all the queries they provide at the end is like SQL being popped and spawning shells from the SQL processes, which I was happy they gave a list of them instead of just like SQL.exe or something. I was surprised they actually dropped
break some of those down because there are some tie-ins to MSBuild, which we're going to touch on. But I liked your point though. But the one thing that does stick out to me is specifically especially on like C2 side of things. It's always the cobalt strikes, the slivers, beaver rat, etc.
You missed the most important one, which is Metasploit, because Metasploits are up this year.
Metasploits are up this week. Okay.
According to my intel reports. I don't know where you've been reading, but my intel is telling me Metasploits are up.
I have to find that article because it's driving me insane. I swear they said they brought the Metasploit and deployed it internal once they compromised the network. I have to find that, and it's driving up the wall. I've been looking for the past day and a half ever since I saw it the one time, and then we were discussing it yesterday.
Here it is. It's my Intel Insights right here. I'll share it so everybody can have the insights. Do you really have it? Dude, I got the link. This is the Intel Insights.
Wait, that's not what I'm talking about.
I know. I'm just trolling because Metasploits are up.
Anyway,
going back. Continue.
In this case, soft ether being the C2 component, which you also do see things like Plank, etc. Leverage. But in this case, soft ether being one that I'm not familiar with, so that was kind of interesting to dig into, which they do touch on in the stuff. Of course, you have things like your juice. Go ahead.
Quick question. When you looked into it, did it seem similar to rclone to you, the way it's configured, like the back end of it all? I don't know if you installed it or not, but
I didn't install it. Basically, it was pivoting off of a bunch of different attributes in like VTI of like what soft ether does.
Cool.
There's things you could look for like default installs, and it can be legitimately used. It's not like it was some OST that was created to just do OST things, like it's a legitimate tool, but in this case being used for remote access to the endpoints. Of course, you have your sweet China Chopper shells. If you need detection ideas, go read any blog post that touches on China Chopper for the past 15 years. Should be good on that.
Yeah.
Persistence. Yeah. To your point on scheduled tasks, I would like to see more information on what are the schemas, like the naming conventions that are being used and the URIs for them. What are the executors off of like the actions that are occurring from those?
Even the WM, the WMIC stuff they share, but like there's no screenshot. It's very generic. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, this to me was kind of interesting. The section here.
So if you look only at the screenshot, you were like, oh, just cert util. But if you go up and read the other lolbins that they use, you got IWR, cert util, bits admin. That was okay. I want more screenshots.
Just just give us the data. Like at this point. Where was I going? Oh yeah.
The service create I thought was interesting. Service being created from a non-standard path, should stand out. I like the name that they're using, that display name, which can obviously try to blend in, mask, whatever you want to call it. Like it definitely looks more legitimate that way. Same with like conhost, the name of the soft ether binary VPN bridge piece, which I thought was cool.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Baseline the services. service is created, what is it and why?
And I think most tools, when I mean tool, I mean like a sim product, have a canned analytic or something that looks for like con hosts without the double ends and things like that. So there should be some canned stuff out there today, you know, for the most part in every product. I hope. If not, I don't know. Yeah, dude, I'm so glad you called that out because I was about to tweet that and I was going to say, what year is it? I literally was about to do it. I left it alone.
I told you, what is old is new, what is dead is alive.
Yep.
It's going to work
100%.
and it's going to happen. Anyway, so let's keep going.
Yep.
What I did appreciate is they actually gave the queries that you can go run. So if you're a Sentinel or you're a Defender for Endpoint shop, you can go run these. So let's kind of like look at some of these. Now, while there's variance in them, the concepts of what you're trying to do is almost identical, which is renamed binaries matching on internal binary metadata to try and identify that, coupled with a couple pieces of information, like specific users, specific processes doing the initiation. But the idea is looking at, again, renamed instances, execution out of interesting things that normally should not be making outbound network connections to like external hosts, things like of that nature. So a lot of it, right? So in this case, Soft Ether VPN bridge renamed to con host or DLL host. So in this case, looking for original file name or the file description of Soft Ether, but then you're saying, I have the process execution with the command line of being con host or DLL with the create a process path. Words are hard of all of these. So you're basically looking at variances of where things are just not equating, or there's difference in what's actually occurring, right? If I launch PowerShell from PowerShell's normal path, that path should be this, that internal name should be PowerShell, that process name should be PowerShell. When those three things don't match, that's interesting, right? That should be a signal of some form. But again, going through a lot of these, like, pretty straightforward. Again, seeing a lot of the MS SQL stuff in here was very interesting. But where's the one where, oh, here we go.
Yep, that one.
So basically, look for child processes of cert util, which are initiated by a variance or a bunch of different SQL processes. That's interesting.
Yes.
Do you know about SQL instances running in your environment?
Have you baselined your SQL servers? I mean, even just like, I mean, any product today should be able to give you should be able to query your product, your whatever tools you're using, looking for even just SQL Server.exe. What are standard child procs off of these things? And just the quick one off my head was like, just look for any low bin coming out of them. And there's going to be some, it'll be legit, but like
just look for any lull bin executing. Basically, any System 32 you should be looking at.
Yep. Yeah, it was kind of the first thing I was triggering on that.
Although,
I did like, oh, go ahead.
But some EDRs have analytics that will do things like frequency of, hey, this process has never executed on this box in the past 30 days. And you get a nice little alert and you get information about that.
That is cool.
So sometimes you get some interesting analytics from that aspect of using like frequency and analysis and rarity and occasion of execution, especially based on user or endpoint. So there are some things that could do that. If you have SIM and you're piping all that data and your EDR does not do that, you could also do things very similar yourself.
Yep. Money.
Let's keep going. Wait.
Yeah, you're hitting the end.
So
all of those, if you go back up real quick link, all of those are links to KQL queries or their hunt queries. So if you wanted to like check them out, you can click it. Yeah. You can't. But yeah, they're all basically just Sentinel queries. That's what you would call them. But yeah,
just go look at those two.
Yep, they're all in there.
Guaranteed. It's admin. It's old as new.
And if you run
That
that
is fun.
RDP one, I'm sure you'll find all the anomalous RDP activity. So yeah,
Does Jan in marketing need to RDP to Mike in accounting's endpoint? Probably not, but it's probably suspicious.
yes.
If your user doesn't need to RDP, just turn it off. Disable it for the users in GPO and disable that rule in the firewall, because everybody should be using endpoint-based firewalls. And if you're not, it's going to be a bad day. As you can tell, I'm very shilling on host-based firewalls, which everybody should do. But yeah, it's your point when you're talking about the hashes. It's the SHA-1 fingerprint. That's how I was confused.
Yeah.
I thought they gave us JE3s, but
Yeah, that's okay.
so some IPs and some fingerprints. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck out there. Here's a bunch of stuff.
Although, if you're not a KQL shop and you have something like a SIM or a different EDR, are there any utilities that could convert these queries for us?
Isn't there I was gonna say isn't it like a KQL to isn't it like a converter, unicoder, uncoder?
Uncoder? Yeah, but isn't that wait. I don't remember.
I don't remember. I thought you could
Or just go to
convert
Sigma.
things.
Just go find the
Yeah.
thing in Sigma and like just go look at this and then go find Sigma and then run it to your specified product. And
Yeah.
that will probably be your best bet.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. All right.
But again, a lot of these are majority of everything shared was pretty much standard
Baseline.
tradecraft. Yeah, just your usuals. Cool. This is our
Baseline
very detailed. Okay, so that was what we're hunting. Anything else you're hunting? Anything else cool?
MSBuild.
MSBuild. The only other, the only other one that I was looking at this week that was probably maybe interesting was the Windows Error Reporting Service Elevation of Privilege Vulnerability, CVE 2023-36874. I don't know if
That's
you
a
saw
no
that
filter.
one. Probably, I don't know.
I
It's the
remember.
CrowdStrike.
No filter. Oh no, I didn't.
CrowdStrike blog. You didn't see that?
I don't recall.
Okay. Yeah, that one was. There's like a bunch of POCs out now too. I think it was that one. I don't know. There's
Actually,
I looked at like eight
Deep
different things.
Deep Instinct's no filter, another LPE using a Windows Error Reporter. That sound familiar?
Maybe. I don't know. It was a CrowdStrike thing, and then there was a bunch of POC drops.
Classic.
Well, there was that.
Anywho, moving on. So yeah,
Okay.
no filter. Go check it out. It's pretty interesting. CVEs that Mike was talking about. CrowdStrike. Go check those out. Go hunt for your flax seeds.
Yes.
Let's touch on some MSBuild. The gift that keeps on giving.
Only, from what I understand, only red teams use it nowadays.
Do they?
But do they? That is the question. All right, so
I am
MSBuild.
curious how many red teams are actually still using
Tell us about MSBuild. What is MSBuild?
It is a tool for making magic. You type in some words into an IDE, it converts those into ones and zeros and builds a program if you typed your words correctly. Very high level, explain like I'm 5. So it is the build engine for applications. So it's baked in with Visual Studio. So when you compile code from Visual Studio, it will default to MSBuild. Of course, you do not have to use MSBuild itself. You can also use MSBuild standalone. Basically, it's going to have a structure of an XML document, CProj files, CSproj, PROJ. You can also use MSBuild for C++ applications, and then you can also do like .NET build. So if you have .NET applications, those can be used for building as well. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means an attacker can bring in something like an XML file that has basically structured in a way that they can point MSBuild to it and compile a payload on the fly, which is great. So instead of bringing in tools, you're bringing in potentially files or binaries by themselves and then building them on the fly. we actually saw some really interesting use cases during red team operations of how they're trying to bring these in and execute them in different ways, and also using different methods of search order hijacking, coupled with some of the MSBuild stuff, which is actually pretty interesting. Screen listed.
What's up? Are you sharing?
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah,
Go ahead.
the highest level, it just, again, takes a file, does magic based on parameters that are specified inside that XML file. It can also do things with VB, and then it will output binary. That is the highest level of MSBuild, but the flexibility of what you can supply it is almost endless, which is actually the interesting part of it. So not necessarily the binary itself, but the capabilities that you can use with MSBuild to actually create payloads. Let's jump in.
Okay. I have a couple of things that we could jump into. Sharing screen.
And a whole bunch of different things we can share out as well as we're trucking along here.
Let's see.
My best resource.
There we go. So the first one, yeah, I'll share this first one. This is just the MSBuild Strontiq page, because I think it's always just neat to see kind of the the overarching, the little boss piece here. But yeah, I always like to kind of just see this, like if I'm looking for like a new bin or trying to understand what's all the deets, Strontiq really helps just kind of break down all the different standard out, what can this thing do or run, even though I may not know everything about what each one of these perform. Kind of gives me an idea of just different switches that are out there. You can use short form on a lot of these, which most have been. But the other cool thing about Strontiq is they pull in all of the different things from like Sigma or Lobos and Atomic Red Team, things like that, which is cool. So you can always get some ideas on detection ideas or content, down here. Something I did do, I'm going to stop sharing this one, is I was thinking about, I was like, I wonder publicly when I was preparing for this, what's like some like most recent activity with MSBuild in the wild? And I Googled it. Let me reshare. And I found this blog from, I think it's Anomaly. Yeah, Anomaly. This is from 2021. But when you Google a little bit harder, and I could probably Google a lot harder, you may find someone else using it. But it seems like it dwindles down, and then it kind of comes back over time with the use of MSBuild by adversaries or maybe red teams too. But the interesting thing I got out of this was there's a hash. I stole the hash from somewhere. Anyway, I'll share it in a second. Oh, yeah. The file name was just proj. And something that I think Paul and I both learned from watching adversaries use MSBuild over time was that the extension can kind of be pretty much anything. Typically nothing. Yeah, it just doesn't matter.
Do it. And in the documents, when you're looking at MSBuild, to Mike's point, there's a couple ways you can go about it. One is put MSBuild in the directory with your project file, and it will just read from the directory. Very similar to like loading images. Search order hijacking. It's going to look from that current working directory. Next thing you can do is point it to a file like malware.safe. It doesn't care about the extension if you specify the file. It's because it's going to interpret it because it's just XML, so it's going to start reading magic headers. And then from there, it does, as long as the XML is structured properly, it will go through and do all the magic. So it doesn't explicitly have to be pointed to or given the value of .csproj, or I think there's like 3 default extensions that it's going to create. And if you use Visual Studio to compile it, there's different configuration options. There's 2 actually, I forgot what the term is, tags, flags, something. Basically, there's 2 parameters that are different than if you were just to point MSBuild itself via command line to it. So building it in Visual Studio offers 2 different parameters versus if you're just going to build from the command line.
Yeah.
Now, this is a normal looking Visual Studio Code to MSBuild compilation lineage.
Yeah, that's basically what I wanted to show. I have a repo where I shared a lot of this stuff in the past, but this is just a screenshot from there. But yeah, Visual Studio, building code, something that like I think a lot of defenders, if you don't have a large organization and MSBuild fires once in a blue moon or once every 30 days on a random machine or build server or something, hunting for it is kind of simple. But if you have 50,000 endpoints or more, 100,000, millions, MSBuild's probably popping left and right. And you might see it coming from this. You might see it coming from like Jenkins build servers or things building Microsoft software or binaries, things like that. It can get kind of noisy. So I think as you like baseline or understand as a defender, like how and where does MSBuild typically run or come from? I think the screenshot I missed on this is the actual one with the command line, because the command line's different. I think you alluded to it, Paul, was the command line is different coming from Visual Studio than it is coming from, like, say, an adversary running MSBuild. And I think, I don't know if I put this in here in our notes, but I'm gonna take notes. But one quick note here is the path of MSBuild. And I know we've talked about it being used or moved or someone bringing it in and putting it in a different place. That's a very important like key point of tracking MSBuild in your environment, path it's executing from. So path, I don't know if we touched on it being renamed, but a renamed MSBuild.
Yet.
Yeah, go for
Very
it.
similar.
Yeah, renamed MSBuild is a sketchy MSBuild.
So coupling, which we touched on with the flaxseed APT bakers. Again, matching things is super important of understanding where normalization of path occurs, coupled with the actual process name, coupled with internal binary metadata that you can use to tie the three together. And when you start to have variances of either one or more of them, like that's really anomalous. So in the case of something where in one scenario, we saw a red team take the hex value of MSBuild, store it in the header of a Word document, the hex values of the XML file in the footer, used VB script to write it out to a temp folder, basically rewrite those so they build them, and then using WMI, call process create to then point to the binary, which then pointed specifically to that file. And they masqueraded the names to make it try and blend in with like Office and those execution. So if you're not looking for things like renamed instances or misaligned normalization of path of standard execution, you could fly right through it. You won't see it. Because when you start to use things like WMI, you start to decouple parent process lineage, and then you get some interesting things. So it's just kind of one of those things. And then I was thinking, just looking at this, it's like, if I were to take MSBuild and couple it with something, I don't like parent process spoofing, I could try and make it look like my parent is dev environment and tie it back into Visual Studio and try and do it that way. So there's a couple different things that potentially would be interesting to see how EDR detection analytics go against those different methods or ways an adversary could do it.
Yeah, and the one thing I was, as you're kind of digging into different types of execution, the one thing we don't see too much, at least not in a while, is the use of different, if you Google sub-T, Casey Smith, MSBuild, you'll come up across all of those variations and different types of ways to execute Mimikatz, like just different ways to run different tools. And the idea for MSBuild and why it's on the Lobins page is to evade all the different application control tools out there. So if I could run MSBuild to spawn Mimikatz, you're going to approve it because MSBuild's an authorized tool, or signed, authorized, trusted tool. Yeah. And that's where, yeah.
What's interesting, like thinking about that aspect, is like EDR itself, when you think about what happens with MSBuild, especially on very large builds, right? Think about large deployment or applications. Think like Adobe is going to compile Photoshop by like that installs like what 10, 12 gigs. Compile time on that is huge. Like SolarWinds, or even like your EDR things. Like so when you have EDR on those build systems or those dev systems, EDR is going to try and monitor that. And it's going to try and record all those file writes, which means you have performance hits. So from standpoint of the security thing, you are going to loosen those dev systems. So by identifying the systems that should normally be executing them, putting in specific policy or specific grouping for those things in security tools so that you can monitor those without anybody else. If it's not normally doing it, just block it, just kill it, right?
Yep.
Like you don't need it, don't allow it. Right. And when it does occur as a problem, then that's when you need to service it. But you got to start focusing more on prevention on that side of things, because otherwise it's just going to play whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
Oh, new thing drops, new lull bin. Oh, you can use this tool to do something else instead. So now instead of actually making progress in your security stack, you're just playing the whack-a-mole game. If a new thing drops, everybody loses their mind, and we go on to the day and then rinse and repeat to the next day.
Yep. Yep.
But anyway. So I lost the point there. But yeah, really identifying the norm and like what should be, and then figuring out how those are coupled and tying those together. Because again, if it's supposed to do it, you can have business impact, which is again a bad thing. We don't want to be impacting business. We want to be business enablers. That's how security operations should focus on. It's enabling the business to do what it needs to do with the right amount of risk associated to that, and doing things that don't need to be done to avoid that risk. That's just a great instance.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's, yeah. So I flipped the slide because this is the kind of like the other side of, so this is like the other side of MSBuild. You're not a developer, but all of a sudden MSBuild spawns and it has this command line. And the screenshot you're not seeing was the prior one from a dev instance, which is the actual command line arguments. It has like switches, it's building something, where this is literally everything's baked into that CS proj. It literally just runs all of it and it calls everything it needs to call, and it's done. I can't remember what this one is, but it spawns like search protocol host and stuff like that. Probably Cobalt Strike. But
Cobalts are down, Mike.
I know, Cobalt. Yes. Metasploits are up. Which I guess I could share my. Nah, it's fine. I'll share it later. But yeah, so this is the other side of it. You see MSBuild run, no command line arguments. It's just calling a file. Why? Like, you know, MSBuild shouldn't just spawn out of the forest. Why is it just randomly spawning today? Interesting. And this is where, like, when you baseline, you'll see all your dev stuff, and then you may or not see like weird red team based activity.
Seriously, just go look at the locations of those CS proj files.
Yeah. Yeah. Them coming out of the proj in the command line, the file in a random non-standard place stands out.
What's writing it?
Yeah. 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 We're something dropping it. Yep.
Is the other key too, especially like .xml, because you can also do .xml. The amount of like random file extensions is through the roof.
And
Demo?
demo time.
Demo.
Well, let's see. Okay.
Terminate this.
You want me to share first, or you want to share first? What are you going to run? I don't know what you prepared.
Oh, I thought you prepared them.
Uh-oh.
It was because I was just going to run the two atomics, unless you already ran those.
Go ahead and run them. I'll do the. I'll do something else.
Do you have those? Because if you have those, great. Because I don't know, maybe I'm up.
I know the T number. If you need the T number, T1127001.
Yeah, something like that.
We need to get like transition videos for when we like switch to the next topic, like da 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 da, you know, and like has a song and a theme, and yeah.
Too many screens. I have no idea what I'm looking at.
Well,
Oh,
Any? Oh, you're ready. Okay. I was gonna fill it up
Maybe.
with some coffee talk.
What coffee you got today?
Today was a lucky day. I got Dutch Bros.
Dutch Bros.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Question: Dutch Bros or Dutch Brothers?
I have no idea. We don't have those around here.
Ah, well, move west.
Oh yeah, what was I doing?
IPMO.
What was that number again?
1127 001. Tab complete.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
that's stupid error. No.
At least it works.
I
Hopefully.
updated it. So I don't know
There you
what's
go.
doing it. Okay. So very high level, we'll show details in a second, but you can use MSBuild using inline tests with C#, but then again, because we can do whatever we want with MSBuild, also got a little VB in there. So let's go take a look at test number. Oh, I need to keep that. So we'll do this. Take a look at our details. So this one's pretty straightforward. Project file is going to exist on disk. If it's not there, we'll attempt to go get it. And then all we're going to simply do is point out, where is it? There we go. So we're just going to call MSBuild straight to the C project file. But let's go open that up. And let's take a look at actually what it looks like, because I think that is pretty handy.
I will share the link to the source of these as well. So if you're curious what you're about to share them. So, but yeah, double tap, go for it. See what happens.
Just see what happens. Yeah, especially this project file.
There
Why
you
did
go.
it open in WordPad? Fix that. They open this in WordPad.
Open it in Skype.
Well, let me Skype this C project file here. Should have the option to send it to Teams instead.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And you should definitely be cautious of running this now because it was definitely created by Casey.
Yeah. So real quick, one thing that I will call out related to mod loads is the Microsoft Build Task V40 DLL. If you see, typically whenever I see that DLL roll up, there is some .NET application foolery going on. And that's definitely a query I've had and have found like suspect things occurring based on
what's
that.
the other one? Is it CLR.dll?
Yeah, CLR, is it MS Core E.dll?
Core WKS? No.
Nope. But yeah, I know MS Core. That's another popular one. But this is, I think I tweeted it this week about DLLs and mod loads, but like this is a good one. Like if you see these things loading up by other binaries, it's typically there's some kind of .NET trickery or foolery occurring. But yeah, it might even be install util at that point, but there's a lot of interesting things. So it's a good place to
Visual
monitor.
Studio installed on this box? What?
Ship it.
Okay, so we looked at the VB version, and in this case, this will be our C# version.
Yep.
So this part should look very similar. Again, so we could populate the entire thing inside of here, change this around, and make this a very interesting one. But let us go. You good?
Yep. Drop my pen.
Something? Drop it. So let's rip it. So we should see this now execute and pull calc. Was it calc? Actually, don't remember.
Yeah.
No, it should just be a right line. Wait, no, this is task 2. What was task 1? Console.writeLine. Waiting. Okay, it says it succeeded. Where did it go? For reals though. All right, well, let's try test number 2.
Let's hear in a second too.
Track that one out for a second. I did run these yesterday. Not on this box, but on a different one. I got alerts, so that was good.
Well, pretty cool.
Does it actually execute it? I don't think it does. I think it just builds.
It should run. I thought it ran something. It doesn't. Oh, it should. Yeah, it prompts you. See, it says right there, hello from a Visual Basic inline task. That's the only thing they do. Yeah, it's not like, yeah, it's not super sexy, but yeah, it doesn't like pop calc.
And what did I run the other day where I popped calc? It's the problem when you do too many things and don't document or use where your notes are at.
Yep.
Okay, so right there it is. It did work.
So it worked. Yeah.
I should have known. It's Casey. These things definitely work.
Oh yeah. And whatever you're running is completely safe.
Yeah. But yeah, 2 MS builds.
Yes.
There's a lot of different variants that you can do from that. There are, so it's not explicitly tied to T1127001, but there are other instances of C# project files and XML files that could be replaced and implemented here and give you different things that are inside of different tests within Atomic Red Team. So even though these 2 tests explicitly point to these, there are other files that could be supplemented and used inside of here. You could actually change it. You can go in and modify the input path and change like the path to whatever. You can put them all in the same folder. Tons of different options here and expand upon this. Yeah, MSBuild. It's like keeps on giving.
Yes. Yeah, that's fun. I'm just trying to find one more. Trying to find one that works off the internet here.
Oh, yeah. Good test. It was on my EDR box. That's why.
Oh, that's gone. Okay.
I'm going to run to get calc.
This one. Here we go. Let's try this. All right, download. Just try to download like some fancy one here so that we have like a really cool demo example. Yeah, I did try that one already.
Did it
All
work?
right. No, I'll show you. One sec. Pop-ups go away.
Yeah.
Okay, that one worked. Okay. I got one that works. Oh, just closed PowerShell. And bye. Okay, let me get the invoke atomic back here.
Let's see here. Just reading some notes. Yep. Project files in the Visual Studio, CProj, VDProj, VCXproj, and others contain MSBuild XML code that executes when you build a project by using the IDE.
Okay. All right, we're ready.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Yeah, so what I did is I downloaded some random stuff off the internet. In this case, this is one from MSBuild Shell. And the idea is that it will spawn a PowerShell host within MSBuild. As you can see, it does call out like system management automation. There's that MSBuild task piece, things like that. So, and everything right here, I'm not an expert on MSBuild, but you can kind of point to like all the different DLLs and references and functions and whatnot in Windows. And then you can see it's a very, very long 2,586 lines of stuff. So I ran this off the internet. Let me just bring it up here. So yeah, here's this one, MSBuild Shell, and it just spawns PowerShell within it.
So it's a new PowerShell window?
Yep. I don't know if you can exit it. No, it's all what? So then go back here. Right. And so then, yeah, I ran some other ones. So you mentioned Mimikatz. I ran this one from the internet. It gets there, but I think it's so old. It was like 7 years old. So yeah, it just fails. So we need to fix that.
I don't think we need to fix that one. We can just let it stay dead.
Okay. And so the other MSBuild-ness that I wanted to at least share and bring up is we do have a atomic test harness for MSBuild.
Yes.
If you have not geeked out on the test harnesses, highly recommend it. It's as simple as install module, just run this in your console there, go back here, or when you have it rolling, you have all the modules and everything like that, commandlets, so you can just go in. I'm just going to show it on the UI. There's a ton, not a ton, but there's enough. There's MSBuild. Inside invoke MSBuild is kind of like just everything related to ATH MSBuild. What's cool is you can specify the different languages for what you want to run. So we showcase, what was it, VB and CSharp. So you can call JScript, which maybe folks knew about, didn't know about.
JScript.net.
Yeah.
When's the last time you seen something like that?
Honestly, it's been a hot minute for MSBuild, but yeah.
Hopefully somebody brings us back.
Yeah. And the nice thing is, if you are within your testing pipeline, you want to validate your coverage, you want to have better coverage for MSBuild, the test harness is probably where you want to chill. You can see here, like, the different examples calling out the fact that it's just TXT. So we talked about, it being in a non-standard file extension. This particular instance,
the CLI.
Yep, exactly. So just having it in the same directory, boom. Here's moving it. So moving it to a different destination. And actually, I think it's renaming MSBuild to foo.txt. Yeah, copies MSBuild, renames it, and executes. Use a different language. Yeah, this test harness is, gosh, it's been a hot minute since I've seen it, but it's very, very thorough. You could even ship in your own custom code. So if you want to use your own, anything you want to run with it, like in this case, it'll start PowerShell. It's a great way to learn all the nuances and differences, all the parameters. I haven't messed with this in a long time, so you're going to see me fumble here, but it's as simple as, once you get the test harness installed, you could tab complete to get to MSBuild. First, start with the basic of just show me like the examples, because maybe I just want to copy and paste to start. Like, just want to make sure I know what I'm doing, right? So let's just go to the top here and grab number one. That was the easiest. Well, and number one was too easy. Number two. Yep. Boom. Go. And the nice thing about the test harness is, if you are running a lot of things at once, you get the output. So you got the contents of that file. It's running PowerShell, which it was a hidden window. You're not going to see it. It's a child proc. Here's the path of it. So again, we mentioned, or here's the full command line, right? MSBuild test.txt. There's no command line arguments. It's running the standard MSBuild, and it's running something out of a non-standard potential path from your developer, or, Susie in accounting, things like that. So pretty cool. And then I want to call out the language one, because I think that's kind of neat. So you could tab complete through these. Now, if I was looking for mod loads here, I think something that I would look for is like JScript being loaded up by msbuild.exe. And in this case, you'll see the change in the contents of that file. So there's that one, and here's this one. So you got your two differences. So yeah, there's a lot of power, but you'll note real quick, the command line still pretty much stayed the same. Let me go back to our examples here. Let's see if we can change something. Yeah, let's try that one. That sounds interesting. Use unregistered assembly task. So still looking at the same here, which again, we can change lots of things. So yeah, just simple as that.
Possibilities are endless.
Yeah. Now our command line, which I would see in Splunk, is just blank. There is no MSBuild. What is it loading? I don't know. It's just MSBuild is just spawning today, right? Like who knows
By
what it's
itself.
doing. Yes. I think the default runner, probably, yeah, just a standard test proj. So yeah, you get kind of crazy with this. So you can tab complete through here, change language. Make sure you guys can see this here. Yeah, I don't even know. I'm just going to click buttons here. So yeah.
Good stuff.
So that's ATH. Push that away. This is my old carbon black response query piece that I made many, many years ago, 3 years ago, apparently. Just covers standard behaviors or things that I always saw that were interesting with MSBuild. Again, not so
network connections. It's a good.
What was that? Yeah, yep.
Yeah, MSBuild network connections. It's good.
Yep. Yeah, even like the command line. Yeah, just looking for like just odd behaviors. And again, different tools will have different, visibility points here. So you may have to run through the test harness, see what you get, run through, I don't know, anything you find on the internet with like Mimikatz, download random stuff. Look for those non-standard process spawns, baseline your environment, see what's normal. And then here's like those inline task piece. I think I was able to attribute these in the past to inline task. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Cross-process events into other processes, MSBuild spawning, or yeah. This is actually a really interesting query to look for. There's a lot of times developers will not spawn MSBuild themselves from like command or PowerShell. So seeing it come off of a shell, just spawning randomly, is really interesting to me. And I always like to find those because it led to interesting behaviors potentially, depending on who you're going after or what you're looking for. But this is a really, really good hunt, is just like looking for people interactively spawning MSBuild. And then here's our normal, not normal, admin or evil. And then there's that. So yeah. Last thing I'll share is I mentioned that in an Anomaly blog. This is that hash. I got the hash from them and I opened it up and I wanted to show because I thought it was kind of neat. It's funny to me that they did so many different points of obfuscation to try to hide different pieces to this, where in reality, most likely your AV product will not catch what's inside here. So this is something to test, play with it, see what happens, or don't. Just kidding. Here's MSHTA running VB script execute, things like that. So, and here's that different, maybe a potentially second proj file. And then here's the shell code. But yeah, I thought that was cool.
That's pretty lit.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we have like one more slide, which is pretty much everything we've been talking about.
Dev rights, non-standard paths, blah, blah. Yeah, I think we got everything.
Cool, man.
Oh, yeah. Office products with MSBuild stuff is definitely very interesting.
Yeah. Just
due to the size, I doubt you're going to see too much of that these days. If you do, it's probably inside of an archive. Just when we saw that, I think that those documents were at least 500 bytes. It was pretty hefty.
And I think the last thing, I know we talked about this before we went live, I think the last thing that's of interest here is there are very, very new versions of MSBuild coming out and different .NET pieces coming out all the time. It's changing. And so what we may not be talking about today, there is probably activity occurring where it's using new .NETs and new everything. And so just something to be aware of. If it's not just standard MSBuild, XE spawning a proj file, it's something else spawning it. And just something to be aware of. There's a lot changing, and Microsoft is definitely still developing on this platform. Yep. Thank you all. Thank you, Paul.
Sounds good. Catch
That
you
was
all
fun.
next time.
Yes.
And, book club.
See ya.
Check out tweets soon.
Book club.
Starting
That's a great idea.
Atomics book club. We'll catch you
Yes.
next time.
See y'all. Have a great
Peace out.
weekend. See you in 2.